Good afternoon, Ms. Schumpert. My name is Gwendolyn Flood, and I want to thank you so much for allowing me to speak with you about your rich life at St. John and its community. Mrs. Schumpert, you have celebrated 103 years of blessings, and I would like to begin this interview by talking to you from Psalms 91 verses 14 to 16 using the NLT version. In Psalms 91 verse 14, the Lord says, "I will rescue those who love me. I will protect those who trust in my name. When they call on me, I will answer. I will be with them in trouble. I will rescue and honor them. I will reward them with a long life and give them my salvation." Because of your long life, I think that Psalms 91 verses 14 to 16 certainly applies to your long life, living 103 years of blessing. So from that, I would like to ask this particular question of you. What advice can you share with us that would help us to live a long, healthy, rich, and fruitful life?
Well, one of the first things which I grew up with was hard work. From a child, I was among those who worked in the garden with utensils, sometimes made by hand. And that hard work also allowed us to, as children, make playhouses which duplicated how we lived in our own house. And those two things carried me on through adulthood, housekeeping.
Okay. I have always, Ms. Schumpert, admired your beautiful smile, your personality, and not to mention the lovely hats and attractive outfits that you wore at church. Would you like to share with us in your own words your personal experiences or memories at St. John Baptist Church?
When I joined St. John Baptist Church, I knew the family of Dr. Reverend Wilson because his wife taught at Benedict, and of course I knew the children by associating with my sister who lived across from St. John at that time. Mm-hmm. So I wasn't really a stranger. Mm-hmm. And some of the children there I had taught in high school. So I felt somewhat like a member of a family.
Okay, all righty. With your when did you join at St. John? Not looking for a particular year, but roundabout. And when you joined, what kinds of church activities did you participate in?
After my husband died, I was a member at St. John Baptist Church in Chapin, and it was so far every Sunday to carry little children and teenagers to Sunday school. So I decided to find a church near, and St. John was one church that I admired for several reasons. I had a sister who lived near, and I would visit her some Sundays and go to church there, and Reverend Wilson impressed me. And I knew quite a few students who I had taught, and I felt almost like home, and I enjoyed it so well, I joined. And Mrs. Wilson encouraged me to join some of the organizations, and that made me more comfortable.
Okay. Can you share with me about your family life and practices, those practices that encourage you or gave you enhance your spiritual growth?
I was one among 4 children who were school age, and of course, at first we had to attend a church school. People then, during the segregation, black children and their parents had to somewhat provide for their own education. We had no buses, no lunch rooms, anything that the other race had. And our little church school was a 2-room wooden school with 2 teachers. And one of the teachers, I remember, had no legs, and he had some type of motivation cot, and he was one who didn't dare take any foolishness from the boys. The boys would take advantage of him because he couldn't get around, and we would have fun knowing the boys got a whip with switches. And I had to write on a bench because we didn't have desks. You knelt down and turned around and wrote on your seat. And later on we got some desks from the white schools, and we thought we were in heaven.
Okay. During your stay at St. John, was it any member or members of the church that was very impressive to you, that encouraged you to grow stronger in your faith while you were there? Any particular member that stands out in your mind?
One lady would see that I had a seat in the area where I like to sit, and she would bring me water because I would have a dry mouth sometime.
Mm-hmm.
And she was one of the ushers, but I never did know her name.
Mm-hmm.
And even after I became 100 years old, she always saw that I had my water. And another lady was Essie. She was a daughter-in-law, a mother-in-law, Essery.
Anderson.
What was Essery's last name?
Anderson.
I call her Miss Essery. Anderson would always speak to me and see how I felt all right. And I believe she was no, I don't think she was an usher, but she was one lady who didn't refuse to see how I was comfortable.
Right. Okay. Were there any particular ministries that you were a part of in the church?
Well, Reverend Wilson was the most interesting because I think that's one why I chose St. John, because I had heard him and I just felt that he was the one I would want to hear every Sunday. And his wife taught with Benedict, and I knew her, but I didn't know her sons.
Right. But are there any ministries such as, we have several ministries at church?
Well, they have a pulpit full now.
No, not ministers, but ministries like circles.
Ministries.
Yeah, circles.
Oh.
Yes.
My family circle was headed by Deacon Brown. I believe.
That's your family ministry group?
That's my ministry.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And my Sunday school teacher. I had several, I don't know, I can't call the name right now. I'm very impressed with the Sunday school.
Okay. Were you a member like of the Nanny Circle or Sarah?
Nanny Bird.
Nanny Bars?
I believe that was
Okay.
the name of
Okay.
it.
You were a member of that circle. Okay. Alrighty. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us about your experiences at St. John, or
I know that
or even
circle.
with Pastor Graham?
In the circle. I don't know how many years I have been there, but nearly every year we always had our Christmas celebration in my house.
Mm-hmm.
But they would bring the food, and I would always have games to play. Oh, we just had a good time. The whole circle would come, and we'd exchange gifts if we had any at that time. And Mr. Brown, who is our chairman, I think the last time our health was not good, and we didn't have many to come, and I think they were having another activity at the church. So we about drained with meetings at homes, and now I think we meet at church.
Okay. If you don't have anything else to share with us special at this point, I would like to interview with this question. And the question is, what advice could you leave with us that can help us to strengthen our Christian journey and life, that we may grow stronger in faith? What can you leave with us?
Well, I know I won't be able to tell the church, but one thing I do notice that nearly everybody in that church has a seat of his own. They don't just come in and have to look for one. They go to where they ever sit every Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned that early, and I choose my seat. And Mrs. Anderson sees that I'm in my seat,
Mm-hmm.
and nobody else visitors come and take my seat. And on some occasions, over my seat is the balcony. Sometimes people carry children up there, and they sit over my seat. And once or twice, those kids would, I guess, playfully drop things down, and it would fall in my lap or near where I sit. And I would have to find out whose child the toy is, the book is, or whatever they let fall over on my area.
Mm-hmm.
And it was sometimes interesting because the children would be looking for me or somebody who was sitting under them to get their toy or whatever they had, a book.
Yes.
And that was one of the funny, interesting things I look forward to get those children their toys or their book or whatever they had.
Okay, so I gathered from you the conclusion here that you're advising us always to be kind to each other, always to be helpful to each other, whether we're young or old. And so we thank you so much for that bit of advice, and I appreciate your taking the time to interview with us. Thank you.
And one thing I do tell,
Okay.
I played the organ one Sunday night at one of our programs, and it was a surprise to most of my St. John members, because they thought the organist was the only one who played in the church. And Mrs. Dreher, who is passed, came to me after I performed and asked me would I be an organ assistant.
Mm-hmm.
And she didn't know that I didn't play that well. I just played a few hymns and some little things I liked.
Yes.
And that was very interesting when she came in, asked me would I assist her in organ. And Reverend Wilson was there one day. I was over there practicing something. And he walked out and looked up at the organ. And so I was sitting there playing. And I think I surprised him. But his wife was also an organist. And I don't think he knew I played a little.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought if I can find to see him the organ I have. After I started working, the first thing I did was buy a piano for my daddy's house. I wanted to play that bad.
Yes. Well, good. So I can see too, we need to practice encouraging others. And that also helps others to build their skills or whatever they're interested in.